Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of the Note Closure Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. Hey, guys, it's been a while. I know I've taken about a 2-week hiatus and haven't had a new episode out. There's a little bit of method to my madness for us. Obviously, the last week of May is one of the busiest weeks of the year for most people with high school graduations and college graduations and beginning of summer trips and all that good stuff, prom, even for some folks. Um, then you run into the first week of June. And, my birthday's the last week of May, so it took a couple days to enjoy that, and then just got back from a week long kind of trip. I won't say it's a family reunion because it was kind of the idea to go up and spend some time in Minnesota. I had an aunt that passed a few months ago, and her husband passed a year and a day prior to that. It's my uncle Carol and Aunt Paulette, my mom's side, passed away. So my mom asked me if I wanted to go up to Minnesota and see my aunts and uncles, which I've not been up in golly, over 30 years. 92 was the last time I visited all of them up in kind of northern Minnesota. And it was exciting. It was fun going up. I took my mom to the first Twins game. You know how much I love baseball. We had really good seats. She really enjoyed it. And the week went by fast. I will tell you that. It was great spending time with my mom, seeing the places that she grew up. She grew up in this little tiny area up called Lake George, Minnesota, around Park Rapids, Minnesota. It's about a 3.5 hour drive north up. Of course, Minnesota is known as the land of 10,000 lakes. But it was good to see where she grew up. The actual old barn from where she lived as a kid was still there. We visited that. We spent some time with my Uncle Vern and Aunt Flo, and my Uncle Dave and Aunt Pam and Aunt Shelly and Aunt Carol and some cousins. It was just really a great time, a quiet time. It's something to be said about being amongst the woods, the pines, and the forest up there, waking up to the sound of wild turkeys in the forest, or right beneath your window in the mornings, and seeing things, and just fellowshipping and catching up. And I laughed a lot this past week, which was great for the soul. But just hearing the stories and connecting the folks I haven't seen in a long time, and was really rewarding. I will be the first one to admit it was a little teary flying home out of Bemidji. Not only just thinking of the events and the fun they had, the good food. Don't get me wrong, I was glad to get home, glad to see Steph. I slept really good last night. Really great night's sleep for the first time in about a week, but it was great just to go spend some time. And those memories, will go a long time. And hearing my uncles talk about my uncles and aunts that are passed and their parents, and walking among gravestones and graveyards too will make you think about some things. And the reason we went up there, like I said, is for a remembering ceremony for my Aunt Paulette and Uncle Carol there in Lake George. And Lake George is only about 700 people. All right. And most of it, honestly, it's funny. It's the Karlsdorfs and the Carsons that make up a huge chunk of that city. And there are literally 70 people came out to the remembering ceremony, aunts and uncles, and my uncle, my cousin Randy and cousin Mike and their family, who are the sons of Paulette and Carol. And it was a nice ceremony talking about all the craziness and fun and how they celebrated their life and lived their lives of passion. And it really, the minister that kind of talked about the ceremony quoted a poem that made me really think about it. And it's really what I want to talk with you guys about today, and something to think about. I've been thinking about this for a week since it took place this last Saturday. And it really made me think about some things. And I think I want to just pass it on to you. Now, some of you may have heard this poem before, and that's okay. If you have, you have. But I want you to think about some things. And think about what the poem says, and then we'll talk a bit more about that in just a second. But let me pull it up here. It's a poem called "The Path." Okay, it was written by a poet named Linda Ellis. Okay, and it goes a little bit like this: The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He knew that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following dates with tears, but said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash, the real estate, What matters is how we lived and loved and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when you're usually being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they said about you, about how you lived your dash? This is by Linda Ellis. And lindaellis.life. You can go to that. But it really made me think about that, Lisa, because our lives are filled with all sorts of dashes, right? From the time that we're born to the time that we pass, or it's that dash with no end date. Hopefully you're listening to this and you don't have an end date yet. But one thing that made me think about this is I'm walking among the tiny little cemetery and looking at all the Karlsdorfs, the Carsons that are buried there. And some are old, some are almost 100 years old. And you'll see some tombstones from World War II. You'll see some, the youngest tombstone had a dash, that was only between 2 years. I had two cousins that drowned when they were 6 and 8. I've got a cousin who disappeared off the face of the earth a few years back. They have no idea where he's at. Just disappeared up in the northern woods of Minnesota. And so that made me think about all our dashes. I mean, we have dashes like dashes from when we went to high school, a dash of where you worked at a job from one date to an end date. Some of us have marriages that had a date. My first, it was 2001 to 2008 with a dash in between there. And I thought I lived that dash pretty well. What I have going on right now, I know I'm doing much better in my dash. And hopefully there is not an end date. But what I wanted to think about is what kind of impact do you think about we're having? I know so many investors and people that get into real estate, their dashes, they hope their dashes are long, right? 20, 30, 10 years at least. But so many of us have that small dash. Like we start something and we end it and we go on to something else. We don't give it the time to marinate. We don't give it time for the experience to kick in so that we'd have a meaningful impact on the people around us, the people that we love. I was disappointed this morning. I get a response back from an asset manager on a deal that I was looking at. Very excited. I drove by it a couple of weeks ago when I was up in Indiana. And it was a non-performing note on the spreadsheet that the hedge fund provides. So I made an offering. I'm excited about it. It's non-performing. Well, I get the data tape back in with the attorney notes, and I find out, it's not non-performing. It's actually performing. And for 30 seconds, it was a little bit long, maybe about a minute. I was very disappointed because I really liked that asset and as an opportunity. Yes, it was out in the boonies. It's 5 acres, near farm, farmland USA, basically. And you start, and it's hard not to, as a real estate investor, when you start buying something, imagining things happen. Now, was I ever going to move up to outside of Indiana? Probably not, especially in the winters to freeze my ass off. But it would avoid the hell of the heat down here in Austin in some cases. But that's the beauty of what we do, is that we can do this from anywhere, right? You can do this as long as you have internet. You can do this note business. And it'll be ideal for that. Because the thing that's made me think more is I think that the dash of me living in Austin is coming to an end sooner than later. We've talked about the moving out of Austin, someplace that's a little quieter, not so busy, not so chaotic, and not so crazy with the stupid politics of Austin, Texas. Don't get me wrong, I love this city, and coming into Austin and getting off the plane, the energy of Austin, it's like coming home and seeing staff and our cats and in the house, and just that's, you relax a little bit. But what I'm trying to get at, and kind of taking this back, is to, well, I did kind of take 2 weeks off from work. I get a little bit of work while traveling. Didn't open my laptop up once, which was very nice and very rare. I really enjoyed that week dash of listening to other people's dashes of stories and experiences, and being able to experience that week with my uncles and aunts and people and cousins I haven't seen in years, decades actually. But the great thing about that's allowed me to get to that is the fact the previous, since I started as an investor in 2008, 16 years of basically this being all that I do, 16, 17 years of being this is all that I do, focused on this. And I missed out on some family reunions. I kind of wish I maybe have gone a little bit more so in the past, but maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I don't know. Hindsight is always 2020, right, ladies and gentlemen? And I know that a lot of us struggle with that. Like, I wish I could have done something better. I wish I was a little taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good. I would call her. You know what I mean? But we're all on our journey because of the decisions that we've made along the way. And some of us have more dashes. Don't get me wrong. I got plenty of dashes in my background from jobs and jobs and jobs to where I'm at today. And I don't think I would go back and change too much. There'd be a couple of things that change along the way, but not, I mean, small minor details. That where I'm at today is because of the decisions and my past dashes. And where's my future? I don't know. I know that I'll still be a real estate investor, still be a note investor, and I believe Steph and I'll be along for a long time. Yeah, she said, "Heck yeah, amen to that." What I'm trying to get at is the things that we do on a day in out basis. Yes, it's difficult sometimes to be 100% committed to real estate, and I've kind of pulled back from attending different conferences because the ego in me. Don't get me wrong, I have an ego. Anybody knows I have an ego, but the ego is not driven by going out and spending 3 days out of my house speaking for 30 minutes to an hour. Don't get me wrong, I love networking. I love meeting new investors out there, but the time that and toil that it takes away from my life, my loved ones, my pets, my better half isn't worth that travel anymore. It's worth me being home here, being able to communicate here via social media or the podcast. And I thank you guys all for listening. Thank you for watching. And I encourage you to reach out to me, talkwithscottcarson.com, because I'd rather have those conversations on the phone where it's one-on-one or via Zoom. But when you do leave this earth, what do you want it to say? What legacy do you want to have? Do you want to have where people talk brilliantly? Nobody's up there talking. He owned 500 houses. He had 500 rentals. That means nothing. Yes, it's great, but what you do with that income, are you helping people? Are you helping people saving their houses? Are you enriching other people's lives? Are you helping people along the way? That's the thing that I like the most, is that I know that we've helped a ton of people over the years, pulled people out of holes, borrowers out of holes. And that's really why I was so happy. Maybe not at first, but when that asset manager sent me the statement, this note that I was going to buy is actually performing, I was like, well, shoot. But good for them. Good for them that they got back on track. They're not going to lose this 5-acre ranch or farm, stuff like that. The numbers on it don't make sense for me to buy it as a performing. It's just way too low in ROI for what we're doing. But it's a good day for that family, and how many of those do you get along with? How many times do you get to help people? I'm excited about one of our students, Linda Martin. She was able to help a family up in Massachusetts in a bigger deal where the house needed work. The bank was getting ready to foreclose on the deal. The borrower didn't have any money to rehab the property. So she was able to take it over and do either take it over subject to and then pay the bank the money to keep the deal, and she's selling it and gonna make some money, but gave some money to the bar too. That's a win-win. Congratulations to Linda. I'm so proud of you. And Linda's had some health issues in the past. I think her dash is becoming more important the closer that we get to it. When you have a few brushes with life, when you've been hit by the big C and overcome it, or you've lost loved ones in your life, it's easy for us to sit there and, yes, be sad about losing somebody at the end date of their life. But we all know that our loved ones want us to continue living and going on. And I always think about my dad. I had my dad in my head a lot this past week, thinking about, hey, it's all about making memories. You're making memories. You're making memories, and just to enjoy it. And just to sit back, not be a bump along, but interaction and laugh and be present in where you're at. And that's one of the things I was very happy that I was very, very present in where I'm at. Because if you weren't present, you were busy on your phone or busy doing something else, you're going to miss out on the story. You're going to miss out on experience, little things. And that is one of the biggest things I really want to get through with you guys in this episode, is that, experiences, living experiences. It's okay to work hard, and you got to pay the bills. I get it. I understand that. Nothing wrong with that. And for a lot of you out there, you're struggling to pay the bills. You're stressed out because of inflation and more cost of groceries, and the job that you have, the paycheck you're getting, there's more month left at the end of it. So the best thing I could tell you to do is keep going. Don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on your goals. Don't make that dash have an end date for your goals, your dreams. If you want to accomplish something, there's no time frame that says you have to be successful by this time. That's totally up to what you want to accomplish, your goals, your dreams. And what I have done or what others have done doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. But the thing I want you to realize too is, while oftentimes we feel like we're on our own journey and we're by ourselves, you're not alone. Yeah, we have the haters. You've got the keyboard warriors, the trolls out there that it seems that the good devil likes to give them extra fodder when we're going through a tough time and we're going through trials and tribulations. But I'm a big believer that when you have that happen to you, you must be that much closer to success for the devil to raise his head and try to beat you down to keep you from finding success. Because we all know that success breeds more wealth, it breeds more help, and the successful are some of the most giving of life. And like I said, if your dash is a little thin right now, that's okay. But what are you working towards? And then one of the things I always say, in one of my when I'm teaching or giving a presentation about note investing is, how long are you going to be a real estate investor? Well, most of us never die. Real estate investors don't retire. We just we just kind of slow down a little bit. We work hard and we live off the fruits of our merits. It doesn't mean we stop buying or we stop investing. We'll always be doing that. Okay. But how are you helping people? And first, you've got to help yourself. That's the most important thing. If you're out there trying to help everybody else, but you're not filling your own cup, you're going to run out of battery. You're going to burn the candle at both ends and fall flat in your face. And I've been there, done that. Not good. You got to take care of yourself first, because that dash can end very quickly if you don't do that. And we need you there. We need those dashes to be long and strong and ready to get the friction on. And I've been around mastermind groups where guys and gals are just buying, and there's an emptiness there because it's all about the next deal, the next deal, the next deal. Well, what about the impact you're having now? Real estate investors, a lot of us that have gone through divorce because we spent more time on the business than the business of our families. And that's something that I've been feeling as I turn 47, stuff like that. I actually love where my life is at right now. We're not buying 300, 400, 500 notes a year. I don't have to. I'm not traveling 40, 50 weeks a year. I don't have to. We do some deals. We're happy where we're at. Love my life. I enjoy where I'm at. We know we'll move at some point and we'll do it someplace that's quieter, and that's okay. But I know that with my dash so far, we've helped a tremendous amount of people. That's one thing I'm very, very, very proud of, that fact, in the amount of people that we have helped. Yeah, we've had a few hiccups along the way and deals have gone south. That happens. You're an investor, not a guarantor. But we've always worked to make sure that people are taken care of. And that's the first thing you do. And if you can have somebody stand up at your eulogy and say that you help people overcome obstacles, and you were there for your friends, your families, and the loved ones, that's one of the most important things that you can do. So now I've been kind of all over the place a little bit with this podcast episode. It's not really talking purely about notes, but think about this. If you're dealing with issues, pick up the phone and give me a phone call. I'm glad to talk with you. TalkWithScottCarson.com. Glad to give you counsel on where you're at and listen and point you in the right directions. If you're struggling, I'd love to talk with you. If you're successful, but you still have an emptiness and trying to figure out what the next thing is, let's talk. If you're struggling because you've bought some deals and you're overcome, I've got a nephew who's done really well in short-term rentals, but he's basically burning the candle at both ends. You maybe need to slow down a little bit and focus on systems in place so you're not the only person to do it all. And that means delegate. Maybe you need to go get a VA. Maybe you need to give something else, and maybe you need to partner up with somebody. Maybe you're struggling to get rock and roll on your own. You need a coach, somebody that can help guide you along that way. Well, I'm here for you. So think about this. What do you want your dash to say? Take a second. Write some things down. What would you love people to say about you? When this was I think if you've ever gone to school, one of your professors probably made you write your own eulogy. I had a college professor have us do that my freshman year. Write your own eulogy. And a lot of times the kids are like, 10-term senator, died at 90 years old passed away in the thralls of love with his 25-year-old wife. You know what I mean? Father of 10 kids, kind of crazy stuff. But literally, what do you want it to say? Say, He was a good person. He's a bad person. He helped people. He was giving. He left a legacy. His kids loved him. Kids hated him. Because that's one thing I did hear this weekend too, is people that weren't good who had passed. They're like, oh, that guy was an asshole, or he was crooked, or he was a crook and didn't help anything, and all these kinds of you don't want that to be a part of your dash. I get it. So that's what I'm going to leave you with today, guys. What does your dash represent? What does it mean? What is it going to mean in the long run? If you're just getting started, hey, congrats. You're going to learn. But give whatever you want to achieve, whatever that goal is, give it time. Be patient. You're going to have ups and downs. It's not overnight success. That's why you see that success takes years. Experience takes years. You don't see people, oh, I did basically this overnight and I was an overnight success with a small dash. Nope, doesn't work. You don't have the experience. So go out, take some action, give some thought, live in the moment. And as my dad said, go make some memories, everybody. And we will see you at the top.